Oh, genius political strategist and prognosticator of prognosticators, Timothy Poole, has a brand new video on how the FBI had to vet the 25,000 National Guards who are standing, around D.C. for the inauguration after the January 6th attack by MAGA supporters on the Capitol building. Let's see how he feels about this. It should be quite interesting. They, of course, had to vet the National Guard because they were worried that there would be secret MAGA supporters, people who would, secretly want to take Joe Biden out because of QAnon conspiracies and stuff like that. So they checked their backgrounds and made sure that they weren't people who would, let's say, abandon their duty to help insurrectionists. So let's take a look at how Tim Poole feels about this, shall we?
There are a lot of conspiracy theories about what's going to happen on the 20th. And it's not just a right-wing thing like the left or the media would have you believe, because there's actually left-wing conspiracy theories as well. And look,
our conspiracy theories... Okay, here's the difference between right-wing and left-wing conspiracy theories. Right-wing conspiracy theories are things like, there's a secret cabal of pedophiles in the Democratic Party who are Satanists who abduct, assault, and murder children for their brain juices. And maybe they're also working with time-traveling JFK Jr., who faked his own death in the 90s to get away from Hillary Clinton, who was going to murder him. And then left-wing conspiracies are like, oh, hey, you know how there was a attack on the Capitol on the 6th by MAGA supporters, and a bunch of the police on video did nothing about it? We should probably, mitigate that from happening again by, making sure the people who are guarding aren't, MAGA supporters. Do you see the difference between the two things and how one is reasonable and the other isn't?
I'll tell you this. Something weird is happening in D.C., but something weird happened a couple weeks ago. A large group of Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol building, and it's weird. We are not in normal times. Anybody who's going to tell you they can predict what's going to happen probably won't end up being correct. And I'll say that for myself, but I think it's fair to say there is a very large chance, in all likelihood, Joe Biden is inaugurated, then they remove the troops from D.C., and then we'll see where we go from there. I kind of feel like escalation is still on the menu because, well, everybody feels that way, and that's just the direction we're pointed in. I wish it weren't the case, but even the establishment...
Tim Poole, who was baited about civil war. Let's take a look. Hold on. Tim Poole, civil war. I know I've looked this up. Someone, I think, in one of our previous streams did a tally for me and found that Tim Poole had around 60 videos that either in the thumbnail or the title were like, is there a new Civil War coming? Civil War? Yeah, Civil War! And he's like, I hope this doesn't escalate. Tim Poole has been edging his audience about supposed left and right-wing civil war all year. And all of a sudden, because he knows he'll get in trouble and banned if he continues to do that, it's like, oh, I hope it doesn't escalate. I hope it doesn't. I've helped perpetuate the escalation and actively have a part in radicalizing people to actions taken on the 6th. But now I know, he's such a weasel. He is such a weasel.
Fears an inside job. This is where everything starts to get very strange. Defense officials fear there could be an inside attack during Biden's inauguration and will vet all 25,000 National Guard troops stationed in D.C. as Army reservist with secret security clearance is arrested in Capitol siege. Did you know there were active duty members of the armed forces who were arrested due to their participation in the riots at the Capitol?
Yeah, it's scary, which is why they're vetting people who are being put on duty to protect people like Biden during the inauguration, because we've already established there are people, unfortunately, a disproportionately large amount of people in law enforcement and the military that support the kind of bullshit Trump is putting forward, the kind of escalation of things to what we saw on the 6th.
Active duty. Yeah. So the Democrats and the Pentagon are quite scared. With 25,000 armed...
I would imagine there's probably more Republicans in the Pentagon than there are Democrats, but regardless of your political affiliation, you should be concerned about radical insurrectionists trying to overthrow the government and potentially assassinate the President of the United States.
National Guard shoot to kill orders. Maybe that's a little too much. Let me make sure I just get the language correct on the National Guard. Authorized to use lethal force. The dramatic escalation in authorities granted to the 20,000 Guard troop station in D.C. is only the latest response to last week's massive security failure. I've seen a lot of people saying it's weird that the National Guard is out here full kit. They have their weapons, like they have rifles, and they have been given authorization to kill people.
I guess you probably shouldn't foment insurrection, then, if you don't want the military to get involved.
That's really weird.
As it turns out, when you try and kidnap and murder Congress people, the government doesn't like that.
One retired, I believe it was a retired general, said we've not had this level of security for an inauguration since Abraham Lincoln. So something is certainly happening, but we've not had a large group of people storming the Capitol. I guess they're saying since, the War of 1812 or whatever, when the British did it. I do think there's a big difference between a foreign adversary storming into a government building and American citizens angry with the American government doing it. Neither are good, but there's a big difference between war and mass unrest. I'm glad we have this
fine line, especially when we're talking about a civil war.
Security. I am. I think we'll need a lot of it. I don't know about 25,000 National Guard troops. I don't think we'll need that much.
I hope not, but it's better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them, as we saw on the 6th.
But a lot of people are freaked out by it. And it's not just the vetting. It's also the statement put out by the Joint Chiefs of Staff warning troops against sedition and insurrection before Biden's inauguration. I got to tell you, the Pentagon is terrified that there are Trump loyalist National Guardsmen and military personnel, and there probably are. There's a lot of crazy stuff I've heard. I'm sorry, I can't do the conspiracy theories on the left or the right. I don't care. It's nonsense, okay? That Trump was a Russian. Trump was working with the KGB. It's ridiculous. But don't get me wrong. It's not just the Russiagate stuff. The left has a new fringe, crazy conspiracy, and the media doesn't really cover it a whole lot. And then we have the people on the right who think, trust the plan because it's going to come through, and it just never come through.
What's the conspiracy theory that the left has that you just said? Because you said there's a new one. Again, are you talking about potential Trump loyalists in the military? Because you just said there probably are. So that wouldn't be a conspiracy then. It's something that we're all agreeing to.
I've heard so much. 2 weeks ago, Trump is going to enact this executive order and nothing happens. I remember they said Trump's going to win on November 3rd.
You also said that, Tim. You said you thought he was going to win in a 50-state landslide. You're talking about you!
And then they waited and called it for Biden. And then I heard, well, Trump needed to lose. They needed to call it for Biden so that the treason...
Sorry, he said 49 states. I apologize. I think he thought California wouldn't go red.
...would be solidified, right? Because attempted treason isn't a crime. So then when nothing happened and the lawsuits failed, they said, well...
Attempted treason is definitely a crime. Attempted crimes are crimes, generally speaking.
You've got to wait for certification on the 14th when they vote. You have to wait for the vote. That solidifies the treason, and then nothing happened. And then, well, we got to wait until January 6th, and then storming of the Capitol happened, but then Biden. So listen, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just think everybody needs to chill out on the craziest theories. We're sitting back.
Again, Tim Civil War Pool wants everyone to chill out.
We're watching. We're being cautious and prepared. And we'll see. And I think, in all likelihood, as I've said since the I believe the 7th, just after probably the 7th or 8th, it's going to be Joe Biden. Okay. The only, I don't want to bring it up, but maybe Kamala Harris for some reasons. But let me read this story and we'll see what's going on. Daily Mail reports U.S. defense officials say they are worried about an insider attack during President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration, prompting the FBI to vet all of the 25,000 National Guard troops coming into Washington. The massive undertaking reflects the extraordinary security concerns that have gripped Washington following the deadly January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol by pro-Trump rioters. I just want to mention I'm glad that we're officially in the historic confirmation territory of it was an insurrection. Look, it was a bunch of angry Americans who...
It was an insurrection attempt. Having a failed insurrection attempt doesn't make it not an insurrection attempt. There are people who brought bombs. There were people who brought guns. There were people who brought handcuffs to kidnap members of Congress. The FBI or whoever, I don't remember if it was the FBI or whoever, but they came out and said, like, hey, there were people whose plan it was to go in, kidnap senators, and kill some of them. It's an insurrection attempt. Just because someone's grandma also happened to be there doesn't downplay the threat caused by the people who were there with weapons and guns.
Who had no idea what was going on and no idea what they were doing. And I'm not trying to be emotionally loaded in these statements. I'm trying to just give you the facts. Clearly, there was no plan. They stormed in, a bunch of people walked in because the cops let them in, and they bumbled around confused quite a bit, not knowing where they were going.
And other people patrolled and were looking for senators. Again, being an accomplice to people with a plan doesn't mean that the people with a plan didn't have a plan just because other people in there didn't know why they were in there. Does that make sense?
I'm sure some of them maybe had ideas of what they want to do, but nobody was coordinated. They call that insurrection. They say it also underscores fears that some of the very people assigned...
An insurrection is an attempt to overthrow the government. It doesn't say you have to have a Mission Impossible-esque plan. Like, if I go and if I intend to murder someone, I don't. I would never attempt to murder someone unless it was in self-defense. And my attempt is really, really shitty. It's still attempted murder, right? Even if I'm shitty at what I'm trying to do, an attempt is an attempt. The intent matters.
To protect the city over the next several days could present a threat to the incoming president and other VIPs in attendance. One Army reservist with secret security clearance has already been arrested for his alleged part in the Capitol siege earlier this month. Timothy Hale Cusinelli, 30, of New Jersey, was described in court papers as an avowed white supremacist and Nazi sympathizer who allegedly encouraged other violent rioters before being charged Friday. The riot at the Capitol, which left 5 people dead, has led to a reckoning unprecedented in American history. President Donald Trump told the crowd to march to the Capitol and that you'll never take back a country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong. He also said, we're going to peacefully march and then cheer on some politicians.
And when the mob boss says, oh, that's a nice horse you have there, would be a shame if something happened to it, he's just genuinely concerned about your horse's well-being. And it has no underlining meanings. Don't worry about it, okay?
Please provide full context, Daily Mail. An Associated Press review of public records, social media posts, and video from Friday shows at least 22 current or former members of the U.S. military or law enforcement have been identified as being at or near, with more than a dozen others under investigation but not yet named. At or near. Spare me. A lot of people were there to see Trump speak.
What, you guys don't just walk around a building for hours and then 5 people die? Just saying, guys. Get your walking game up to snuff, okay?
And after he did, a lot of those people, almost all of them actually, left. I've been given different estimates, but most people have said at least a couple 100,000 people in D.C. for Trump. And a few thousand went to the Capitol and actually stood on the Capitol grounds. And a few hundred actually went inside the Capitol. We'll see how things play out. I think the whole thing was a big mistake, but we'll see. They say, in many cases, those who stormed the Capitol appeared to employ tactics, body armor, and technology such as two-way radio headsets that were similar to those of the very police they were confronting. That is ridiculous. You can buy walkie-talkies at REI. You know, I got to tell you, my friends, I'm looking at these photos. I'm looking at these videos of the National Guard. Look at these here actual U.S. Army and National Guard personnel. They seem to all be fit and well-equipped. And then I'm looking at these videos of the militia members and some of these protests that happened with the Boogaloo Boys. They're very out of shape, and overweight, okay? Listen, you've got the National Guard. Maybe some of them have sympathies. You'd have to get some commanding officer who has a plan and wants to take some action or whatever. I just don't see that happening. Maybe. We really are in, unprecedented times, to say the least. I'd like to refer to normalcy bias, as I often would, but nothing about what's going on right now is normal. This has not happened since the 1860s. That's what they're saying. We've not had this level of security. We've not had a storming of the Capitol since 1812.
I thought it was 1814.
Something.
Hold on. Shit, was it 1812? Damn it. Off by 2 years. God.
Weird is happening. Something is freaking these people out to the point where the Joint Chiefs had to issue a warning to troops. They had to tell the armed forces, don't you support Donald Trump. And
don't support him through violent insurrection. Yeah, that's good advice. That's good advice. No one says you can't have, like, a political opinion. However, if that political opinion entices you to try and overthrow the United States government, probably a no-no.
I don't think people are going to care. Listen, if you really believe that there are Trump supporters who are that loyal to him, that they...
There literally are. I spend a decent amount of time on the Donald.win because I doom scroll and I like to see what those psychos are saying. And there are people who claim to be, like, active military members who want to do stuff. Now, would they be successful? I don't think so, but they could do a lot of damage along the way.
It would defy the constitutional process we've gone through thus far, or they believe it wasn't legitimate, then there's nothing you can say. Nothing. I'll stress this again, because I made this point a couple weeks ago and a couple weeks before that. I've made this point in videos going back a couple years. A military coup is not some commanding officer saying, okay, gentlemen, let's go stage a coup and support Donald Trump. That won't happen. I'll tell you what'll happen. They'll say, hey, we have, new orders. Go and guard the White House. That's it. And they won't know why. And it's a reasonable order. We're going to guard the White House. Sounds good. But you don't know where that order comes from. You see the problem? This message sent out from the Joint Chiefs is meaningless. Meaningless. Okay? The message must be to the officers or to the ranking individuals who would potentially give orders. I told you this story before about the Bosphorus Bridge in Turkey. I don't know, where we're at in the story because I've not covered this since it happened. But soldiers went to this bridge in Turkey and were guarding it. The media then reported they were staging a coup. Civilians then came and dragged away the soldiers and beat them to death. My understanding at the time was that these soldiers were just given a kind of blanket, normal-sounding order, like, hey, we got to secure this bridge. There's maybe a terror attack. And they went, you got it, not realizing what was really going on around them because it's need to know. They're not going to tell all the lower-ranking National Guardsmen the orders you're being given are to subvert the Constitution. Why would they say that? They want loyalty. They would just tell you, hey, everybody, go and shut down this road. We got a threat, so we're going to, keep everybody safe. Then they do it, and then before they realize it, they're blocking the road and Biden can't get in. Who knows? So I don't understand why they're putting out this message. It's not going to do anything. Here's what Vox reports. In a statement sent out...
The idea is that the Joint Chiefs of Staff are not on board with any sort of insurrection attempt, and they are keeping their troops in line by saying, don't let any... The issue is not like generals and even the people directly below them. The concern is that there will be lower-ranking individuals, down to even, like, privates and stuff, that might get really stupid ideas because they've been radicalized by people like QAnon and websites like the Donald.win, and they might try and make some stupid actions that'll get people hurt. That's the concern. The concern is not really that there's anyone high up in the military that's going to order any sort of illegal act, at least not as of right now.
To the entire U.S. military, all 8 members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff condemned the Capitol insurrection. Top military officials prefer to stay out of anything tinged with politics. For one to say something after last week's event would be noteworthy and rare enough. For all 8 Joint Chiefs to speak out together in a message to the Joint Force, no less, shows just how perilous they deem the moment to be, saying, "The violent riot in D.C. on January 6 was a direct assault on the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Congress, the Capitol building, and the constitutional process." The letter signed by all eight Joint Chiefs reads, "We witnessed actions inside the Capitol building that were inconsistent with the rule of law. The rights of freedom of speech and assembly do not give anyone the right to resort to violence, sedition, and insurrection. As service members, we must embody the values and ideals of the nation. We support and defend the Constitution. Any act to disrupt the constitutional process is not only against our traditions, values, and oath, it is against the law. President-elect Joe Biden will be inaugurated and will become our 46th commander-in-chief." Well, Trump could subvert this letter by resigning right now so that Mike Pence becomes president.
Well, Trump could just leave the presidency so the number's wrong. Yeah, that'd be stupid and petty, but he could do it. What's your point? I'm gonna make you one number higher in the amount of presidents we have. Okay? And?
Because then Joe Biden would be the 47th president, which would be one of the stupidest things. But I've heard people say that would be ridiculous. They say there are likely two main reasons why the Joint Chiefs Chair, Army General Mark Milley, and the 7 others felt the need to pen the letter. First, veterans and possibly even some active duty troops were allegedly involved in the attack. We know that's true now. Second, the Joint Chiefs tend to speak out when something really egregious has happened, and there's no question the Capitol insurrection fits the bill. They have developed a finely tuned political radar on when to weigh in. They go on to mention, for example, after Donald Trump said some attendees of the 2017 rally in Charlottesville were very fine people, all the Joint Chiefs spoke out against racism and bigotry. And that's a hoax.
It is not a hoax. Oh my God. I hate the right trying to gaslight us on this shit.
Donald Trump said that he was not talking about the white nationalists. Just look up the transcripts and watch the video. This is that moment was a very serious red pill moment for a lot of liberals when they heard over and over again that Trump referred to very fine people in a strange way. When you actually watch the video, you can see that
he said there was blame on both sides. That's the thing people tend to get mad about. The very fine people thing is a way that people wrap that up. But he was blaming people who were against the white nationalists for the death of a non-white nationalist that was killed by white nationalists.
He actually condemns the white nationalists totally. He said they should be condemned totally, but references there were some regular people who were there who didn't want to see a statue torn down. I can understand why tearing down statues is dangerous. I'm not a fan of Confederate statues, and I don't think they should have been put up in the first place, and they should be put in a museum. That's my opinion. However, I think the general idea many of those defending the statues had was that we were trying to mend the nation after the Civil War. And
oh my fucking God, Confederate statues were not put up after the Civil War, Tim, you fucking idiot. Confederate statues were mostly put up, oh gosh, when was it? It was around the time that the KKK started to come back. And then around the 60s, during the civil rights movement, most statues. Yes, it was around Jim Crow. Jim Crow was the era where most civil rights statues went up. And then, in the 1960s, most of the statues that we now know as, like, Confederate statues went up because it was a direct response to the civil rights movement. These are not like ancient statues from directly after the Civil War. These are monuments racists built directly to show black people in their communities, we have the power, we put up this statue of someone who fought to subjugate you, fuck you. That's what those statues were. They aren't some, like, thing from the 1860s, you absolute jackass.
And so, within several decades afterwards, they agreed, to put up statues. And that was kind of the point. We had two large factions fighting. And so there had to be some kind of acceptance or so. Reconstruction ended in 1876 after another election, which was so contested, it almost resulted in a civil war breaking out again. Now we're at a point where people are fighting over ideology, and the left seems to be gaining most of the ground. The worrying thing I see, well, actually, I can't tell you what I don't know. I don't know. 25,000 troops. Why? That's really weird, isn't it?
Because a bunch of right-wing terrorists broke into the Capitol with the intent of murdering Congress people. Were there a bunch of people also there who genuinely had no idea what they were doing in there? Some old people and stuff? Yeah, but that doesn't undo the people who were there to murder government officials.
25. The number keeps going up. Now, I don't know what's going on, man. I know some people in D.C. I know a lot of people in D.C. And they're telling me, like, this is weird. You know, maybe it's because the Capitol thing has never happened before, and they're worried about angry American people.
Do you think?
But something just is they're worried about something. So I don't know what's...
It's like that meme. Hold on. Right-wingers asking why there's so many National Guard at the Capitol. I wonder who that's for. You! You absolute jackasses! It's you! I hate these people. I hate them so much.
What's going to happen? But to have National Guard authorized to use lethal force, to have now 25,000 reportedly coming in, that's unprecedented. And some people have even said that the official request was only for a few hundred support. But now we're in the 25,000? Well, I'll tell you this. There's a couple conspiracy theories. The right has the conspiracy theory that Trump has boxed in D.C. with troops that are under the control of the acting Secretary of Defense, which is a Trump loyalist. And the left has very much the same conspiracy. Isn't it funny? But you'll only ever hear from the media criticizing the right-wing conspiracies.
I've not heard a single left-winger purport that that's the case.
They won't call it the left-wing conspiracy theories where, I mean, look, the Democrats are freaking out. The Pentagon is freaking out. The left truly believes that there are, white supremacists and Trump loyalists to the point where they need...
I'm sure there are. White supremacists have made an effort to put themselves in places like the police and the military over the last 30 years. It's been a concerted effort, and they've succeeded.
To vet all of these soldiers. We also know that there was recently... Joe Biden had to... Well, let me read you the story. Joe Biden to have new Secret Service team amid concern about Trump loyalty. I've heard this story was fake news. A lot of people called it out saying this is ridiculous. It's not true. But it was reported far and wide that there were concerns. The Secret Service presidential detail was loyal to Trump, and that was dangerous for Joe Biden. So they were bringing in Secret Service agents that worked the Obama administration and knew Biden. Maybe it's all true. Maybe both conspiracies are right. Maybe it's true that Donald Trump did send in 25,000 armed National Guard to box in D.C. so that anybody who comes in for the inauguration will essentially be surrounded by soldiers under the command of Trump. And what would happen? Let me tell you this, the danger here, and why I'm concerned about the level of soldiers we have on the ground. What happens if there's some guy? Hold on. You know what? Let me slow down. Name your congressperson. Were you able to do it? Okay, many of you probably were. I'm sure many of you probably weren't. Name your senator. Okay, that's a lot easier. Many of you probably were able to name your senators. Name your state rep. Name your state senator. Anybody? Okay, maybe some of you. How about your state General Assembly member or rep? Probably can't. Most people can't. They don't know. Do you think these National Guardsmen do? Do you think they know?
Hold on, someone just sent a tweet that's, Don Jr.?
Yet to come! The best is yet to come!
Oh my God, no, that's not gonna work. Louder.
The best is yet to come!
Stand by. The best is yet to come!
Yikerinos.
What happens now that they've been given authorization for use of lethal force if they're instructed to take action to any degree, up into like seriously lethal force against someone, and they don't know who it is. What happens if a car is coming in and they're ordered to stop the car, and the guy inside is a member of Congress, and they say you can't come in? We don't know. We don't know who you are.
They would have credentials. Members of Congress have credentials, and they would be able to check up on that.
Do you think your average National Guardsman is going to know if they're given an order to stop that vehicle? Look, a lot of people have messaged me saying I have no idea how orders and the military work. You're correct. You're 100% correct. I'm only basing this off of what I've seen in other countries with how orders are given to the military.
I'm also pretty sure cars that, like, United States senators and House members drive around in, I'm pretty sure they have diplomatic plates or special plates on them. Like, you'd be able to check that out.
And I've seen some pretty messed up stuff. Most of the stuff that I have seen, like the most egregious stuff, through video files and the media and other journalists. I've seen some stuff on the ground that's been particularly brutal. But I'll tell you, if an order was given and it was not particularly unreasonable, do you you need to just ask yourself, what would you do if you were ordered to save someone's life but you didn't know what was going on? These are not easy situations to navigate. And everybody thinks they know. Everybody does. And even many right-wingers talk about a good guy with a gun and stuff like that. Well, I certainly am now a big fan of the Second Amendment, and you can check out my Instagram. Go to instagram.com/timcast, because I put up a video the other day of cherishing the Second Amendment with a .308 rifle. I also recognize if someone enters a hot situation in an urban center and there's shooting, you don't know who the bad guy is. The cops don't know who the bad guy is. It's very hard to determine if just people are shooting at each other. You need to make everybody stop. And so it can be tough. If there's a car, driving, and a National Guard is given an order, and it's not unreasonable, and they're stopping it, it could very well be in favor of Trump or Biden. We don't know.
How about this? How about it's National Guard that are there because, again, I don't know why Tim is in here promoting conspiracy theories implicitly. And I understand he's saying, well, I don't necessarily believe this. But he's spending a 20-minute video talking about this and what-ifing. He's implicitly endorsing this to some extent. Tim, they are there because right-wing terrorists broke into the Capitol building and attempted to murder Congress people and succeeded in murdering one police officer.
That's my concern here. Lethal force on American citizens sounds horrifying because you don't know who's going to be doing what. You don't know if there's going to be a guy in plain clothes, turns out he's working in the government, who gets blocked or arrested even. And what happens if, I don't know. You get the point, okay? I think you get the point. Conspiracy theories on both sides suggest something similar, and they're scared about what Trump may do and what these National Guard may do. Like I mentioned, you've got the people on the fringe right believing that this was all part of Trump's plan. I swear, this is the craziest conspiracy. They believe that the storming of the Capitol was a pretext so that under the guise of riot control, Trump could move in the National Guard without objection from Democrats or from the left. And that's what's happened. Kind of. I think, I don't think Trump planned the storming. I think it hurt really bad. It was bad. But as you can see, the establishment elites and the left are very worried about what these National Guard might do, to the point where they've issued a letter warning them not to do this. But like I said, I've explained in great detail, it doesn't matter. They're there. The troops are there. The order.
The Joint Chiefs statement is not to stop some overarching grand scheme by Trump. Their concern is not that, because that's not going to happen. Their concern is that some lone wolf idiot privates somewhere are going to, high on QAnon and Newsmax, are going to go shoot some people up while in uniform because they've been radicalized over the last 4 years. It's a warning to those people. It has nothing to do with actual, concerns about Trump.
As they get will come from the Pentagon and likely the acting Secretary of Defense. Donald Trump will probably give instruction, or he won't. We saw Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, go and meet with Trump. And when he left, he had a stack of papers. A photographer took a picture of those papers, and we can see on it some references to the Insurrection Act and declaring martial law. No idea. I don't know. I'm worried about what's coming in the next couple days. For the most part, there is a normalcy bias that wants to ignore everything we're seeing and just say, Biden's going to be inaugurated. And then people...
Tim Pool wants a coup so bad so he can drop this mask act and just be full fascist without having to be a snidely little weasel about it. I think he's sick of the mask. And he wants a civil war or a coup so badly so he can just stop pretending he's anything other than pro-fascism.
We're going to grumble. But things are hotter in this country than they've been in a long time. Apparently since 1812 or 1860, the 1860s with Abraham Lincoln's inauguration. I believe it was 1860s. So I can't tell you, man. I can't tell you. Normalcy bias seems to make no sense. Optimism bias may be the right call, but it depends on what your optimistic is. If you're a Trump supporter, you're optimistic about Trump winning and pessimistic about Biden. If you're a Biden supporter, you're optimistic about Biden winning and pessimistic about Trump winning.
I'm hoping optimistically that democracy in the United States won't be destroyed by a former reality TV star. How about that one?
And as far as I can tell, we have just been moving in the direction of Joe Biden being inaugurated every step of the way.
Yeah,
that's what I said.
That's how it works when you win an election, dipshit.
After the 7th, it is a 99. Well, after the 7th, I said it was like a 97 or 95% chance it was going to be Joe Biden because this was before all the lawsuit attempts. Then once the lawsuit started failing, I was like 99.999% Biden. And that's where I'm at right now. But maybe I'm wrong because 25,000 shoot to kill troops. I shouldn't say shoot to kill. It's probably disrespectful. It's authorization for use of lethal force is crazy. And I'm seeing videos from locals where they're like, what is this? So we'll see, man. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.
Tim is such a jackass. Ugh. Hold on. What are even the comments on this video? It's almost as if Biden isn't the most popular president in U.S. history. Who is saying he's the most popular president in U.S. history? Do these people really not understand that people voted against Trump because they hate Donald Trump? This is a coup orchestrated by Joe Biden and the deep state. A coup is when you win a democratic election. Yikerinos. Wowzers. I don't know how Tim Pool is allowed on YouTube based on how little he vets and moderates his comments. Jesus Christ. Okay. Trump's approval rating has dropped 6% on average since the riot. I'm not shocked.